On the back of your handout, your Renaissance worksheet, there's 4 artists. You have Donatello, Michelangelo, Raphael, and Leonardo da Vinci. And then across from them are 4 techniques. So you have classical, more realistic, more nature, and more science. So each artist that we're going to talk about, they are related to the technique that is across from them. So Donatello was a classical artist. So under him, I want you to write down that he was a sculptor. He made statues much like the one you see here, and he was very religious. And his goal was to bridge the gap between religion and humanity. So I would like you to write that down under classical. So his job was to show people that life was both religious and both human. And in this sculpture, he wanted to make this angel look like she was sinking into the wall. And this wall kind of represents humanity. So this kind of shows that this angel is kind of halfway in the real world, halfway in heaven or wherever she is. And that was his way of showing that. Next we have Leonardo da Vinci. So you're going to jump down to the bottom of your worksheet. Da Vinci was what was called a Renaissance man. So you're going to write that down under Leonardo da Vinci. And what that means is you are good at everything. So like this says, he had a broad knowledge about many things. He was good at everything that he tried. And this next slide shows you a lot of the things that he did. He was an artist, he was a sculptor, he was an architect, he was a scientist, an engineer, and an inventor. So under Leonardo, I would like you to write down 2 of those. He got very good at using math. So under more science, I want you to write down that he used math in his portraits. And we've seen these triangles before. He got very good at manipulating triangles to make his art better. This is the Mona Lisa. This is the most famous painting ever made. We're not really sure why. It's not that special. There's nothing awesome and amazing about it. It's just a painting. But for some reason, Americans and everybody else in the world has decided that this is the most well-known, famous painting ever. And it is also the most copied painting. So you can see in the picture on the right, there's a Mona Lisa made out of noodles. This one is made by Picasso. That's an Andy Warhol piece. And then this last one was just the cover of a magazine. Some people also think it's a self-portrait of Da Vinci as a woman. I'm not sure how much I buy into this, but if you look at the strip at the bottom, it kind of makes sense. Under more science, I also want you to write down that he learned lots about biology from his art. So he would get a hold of dead bodies, either legally or illegally. He would dissect them and he would draw what he found inside. And this is how at least the people in the Renaissance found out how babies were made. He kind of diagrammed our internal organs. He got really good at drawing muscles. He was an inventor. He has hundreds of pages like this. So this bottom picture was his version of a helicopter. And he had this idea about 500 years before we had this idea. So he was pretty smart. Okay, next we have Michelangelo. This guy was also very religious, so I would like you to write that down. And he painted something called the Sistine Chapel, and that's S-I-S-T-I-N-E. I would also like you to write that down under Michelangelo. All right, he was also a sculptor. So under realistic, I want you to write down that his art was also classical. So this is another statue of David, and you can see the muscles are very well defined. He's proportionate except for his hands. His hands are a little odd. But other than that, you can tell that this is a human and this is a muscular male. But it also looks very classical, which we've seen before. All right, this is a picture of the Sistine Chapel that I was talking about. It just has all this art in it. It's like art threw up on the walls. This took him about 6 years to paint, and this is where this is inside Vatican City in Rome, and it's one of the most famous chapels out there. And this picture, you might have seen it before, is the creation of man. It's his most famous painting in that area. Okay, next we have Raphael. I would like you to write down that he was not a religious person. And he tried to paint people in thought. So remember when we talked about emotion, they tried to get him to paint people who are thinking, which is kind of hard to portray in a painting. He also painted lots of nature, which I know there's not a lot in this picture, but you can kind of see the trees in the background. They move away from painting clouds and heaven and things like that into painting real scenes, so mountains and trees and courtyards like this. So under more nature, just write down more realistic, and they kind of pull these paintings out of heaven. So you don't really see someone sitting on clouds anymore with halos. They're real people in real scenes.